Dust the color of dried blood stretches to every horizon. The sky above isn't blue. It's a hazy butterscotch, tinted by iron oxide particles so fine they hang in the atmosphere for months. The ground crunches beneath your boots, and the silence is absolute. No wind you can hear through your helmet. No birds, no distant hum of civilization. Just you, standing on a frozen desert that makes the Sahara look hospitable. This is Mars, and nothing here wants you alive. 7 months. That's how long you've been sealed inside a spacecraft no bigger than a studio apartment, hurtling through the void at roughly 24,600 miles per hour. Earth shrank behind you weeks ago. First a marble, then a dot, then nothing at all. And now, through the forward viewport, Mars grows. Slowly at first, a rust-colored smudge against the blackness. But with every passing hour, the smudge sharpens into a world. You can see it rotating, lazy and indifferent, wearing its scars openly. Craters, canyons, the faint white gleam of polar ice catching distant sunlight. The approach is deceptive. From orbit, Mars almost looks gentle. The ochre plains roll on forever. Thin clouds of water ice drift across the limb of the planet, catching light in ways that remind you of cirrus clouds back home. But the numbers on your instruments tell a different story. Surface pressure, roughly 0.6% of Earth's. Average temperature, minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Atmosphere, 95% carbon dioxide. This isn't a place that was built for lungs like yours. Entry begins without ceremony. One moment you're floating in microgravity, watching the planet fill your window. The next, the heat shield bites into the upper atmosphere and your entire world becomes noise and fire. Temperatures on the exterior climb past 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. The plasma glow outside shifts from orange to white. You're decelerating at 4.5 Gs, pressed into your seat so hard that breathing takes effort. The whole sequence, from atmospheric entry to surface touchdown, lasts about 7 minutes. NASA engineers call it the 7 minutes of terror, and once you've lived through it, you understand why they don't smile when they say it. The parachute deploys at supersonic speed, yanking you hard against your harness. But Mars's atmosphere is so thin that the chute alone can't slow you enough. Retro rockets fire beneath the lander, kicking up a storm of fine regolith. The dust rises in strange slow-motion plumes. Gravity here is only 38% of Earth's, and everything falls like it's underwater. Then contact. A jolt through the landing struts. Silence again. You're on the surface. The engines tick and cool beneath you, and the lander creaks as it adjusts to the thermal shift. Through the small porthole, you see the terrain for the first time with your own eyes instead of a camera feed. It's flat. Scattered rocks, most of them no bigger than a fist, sit half-buried in rusty soil. The horizon feels wrong, closer than it should be, curving more sharply than you're used to, because Mars is only about half the diameter of Earth. The sky is that eerie salmon color NASA photos never quite captured accurately. Near the sun, it fades to a bluish tint, the opposite of what happens on Earth, where the sky is blue overhead and warm near the horizon. Everything here works in reverse. Your brain keeps trying to correct what your eyes are showing you, insisting that the colors are wrong, that the proportions are off. They're not. You're just not from here. And as you stand at the airlock, waiting for the pressure to equalize, a thought settles in your chest that no amount of training prepared you for. You are farther from another human being than anyone has ever been. Your first step onto the surface kicks up a puff of dust that hangs in the air far longer than it should. On Earth, that cloud would settle in a second or two. Here, The fine particles drift lazily, suspended by the low gravity and the thin atmosphere that can't pull them down fast. You watch it swirl around your boot print, a print that will likely remain here, undisturbed, for thousands of years. There's no rain on Mars, no flowing water to wash it away. Whatever mark you leave on this ground, the planet remembers. The landscape ahead of you is Jezero Crater, a 28-mile-wide basin that was once a lake bed. 3.5 billion years ago, water flowed through a river channel and spilled into this depression, forming a delta rich with clay minerals. You can still see the remains of that delta, layered sedimentary formations stacked like pages of a book. Each layer holds a chemical record of the water that deposited it. If microbial life ever existed on Mars, this is the kind of place that might have preserved it. But right now, all you see is desolation. Beautiful, terrible desolation. The ground beneath your feet is a mix of basaltic rock and fine iron oxide dust, the same stuff that gives the planet its color and earns it the name everyone knows. Pick up a handful, and it feels like talcum powder mixed with tiny shards of glass. Martian regolith contains perchlorets, toxic chlorine compounds that would burn your skin and wreck your thyroid if you breathed them in. Every time you go outside, you'll track this poison back into the habitat on your suit and boots. It gets into everything. The first colonists won't just battle loneliness and radiation. They'll fight the dirt itself. Walk a few hundred yards west, and the terrain shifts. Small ripples in the soil mark where wind has carved the surface, building miniature dune fields that migrate slowly across the crater floor. The wind is constant but weak. Even during the strongest gusts, which can top 60 miles per hour, the air is so thin that it feels like a gentle breeze against your suit. But those winds carry dust, and dust storms on Mars are legendary. The global dust storm of 2018 encircled the entire planet for months, blotting out the sun so thoroughly that it killed the Opportunity rover by starving its solar panels. Standing here, knowing that the calm sky above could turn into an opaque wall of choking particles within days, changes how you look at every sunset. Speaking of sunsets, wait for one. You won't regret it. As the sun drops toward the horizon, the sky shifts in ways that feel alien to your core. The area around the sun turns a deep, cold blue, while the rest of the sky darkens to a dusky pink. It's the reverse of everything you grew up watching. On Earth, blue light scatters broadly across the sky, and sunsets glow warm. On Mars, fine dust particles scatter red light across the sky during the day, but allow shorter blue wavelengths to concentrate near the sun at dusk. The effect is haunting. You watch this pale blue disk sink behind a ridge of ancient rock, and for the first time since landing, something in your chest loosens. It's still a sunset. Different rules, different physics, but the same quiet ache of watching a day end. Then the temperature drops. Fast. Without the sun, Mars bleeds heat like an open wound. What strikes you most after a week on the surface isn't the landscape. It's the quiet, not just the absence of sound, though that's overwhelming too, since the thin CO2 atmosphere carries sound poorly, and everything outside your helmet arrives muffled and distant. No, it's a deeper quiet, a stillness that seeps into your thinking. There is no ecosystem here, no food chain, no hum of biological activity. On Earth, even the most barren deserts pulse with hidden life. Bacteria in the soil, insects beneath rocks, seeds waiting for rain. Mars offers none of that. The silence here is geological. It belongs to a world that may have died billions of years ago, or may never have lived at all. That question, whether Mars ever harbored life, is one of the oldest in planetary science, and we're closer to answering it than most people realize. NASA's Perseverance rover has been collecting core samples from Jezero Crater since February 2021, sealing tubes of rock and soil that contain the most promising astrobiological material ever gathered. The plan is to return those samples to Earth, where laboratories can analyze them with instruments too large and sensitive to send to another planet. If those tubes contain biosignatures, fossilized microbial structures, organic molecules in patterns that only biology produces, it would be the single most significant scientific discovery in human history. Proof that life arose independently on two separate worlds in the same solar system would mean that the universe isn't just capable of producing life, it's prone to it. But even if Mars was always sterile, the planet still reshapes how we understand ourselves. Standing on this frozen expanse, you're looking at what Earth could become. Mars likely had a thicker atmosphere once, maybe even oceans. Then it lost its global magnetic field around 4 billion years ago, and the solar wind stripped the atmosphere away, molecule by molecule. The water evaporated, froze, or retreated underground. The surface became the irradiated wasteland you're standing on now. Earth's magnetic field protects us from that same fate, but it won't last forever. Nothing does. Mars is a cautionary tale written in rock and dust, a planet-sized reminder that habitability isn't permanent. There's talk of changing that. Terraforming proposals have circulated for decades, crashing ammonia-rich comets into the surface, deploying orbital mirrors to warm the poles, engineering super greenhouse gases to thicken the atmosphere. Most scientists consider these ideas centuries away from feasibility. You'd need to raise Mars's surface temperature by at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit, replenish an atmosphere that took billions of years to vanish, and create a radiation shield for a world that can't generate its own. It's not impossible, but it would require a commitment spanning generations. For now, though, you're here. One person in a pressurized suit, breathing recycled air, standing on a world that predates every civilization, every language, every song ever written back home. The sun is small and pale above the horizon, throwing long shadows across a plain that hasn't changed in a million years. You realize something that no photograph, no simulation could ever communicate. Mars doesn't care that you came. It doesn't know. You're a warm speck on a cold rock circling an ordinary star. And somehow, that makes the act of standing here, of having crossed 140 million miles of nothing to press your boots into this ancient dust, the most defiant, deeply human thing you can picture. You take one more look at the butterscotch sky. Then you turn back toward the airlock. There's work to do.